Okay, this is going to be part 3, Rotten Reads, the adverse effects on psychiatry from the article, Is Psychiatry for Sale? Originally published in 2003. So let's keep reading. We just did, politics, the politics of, so we're going on to the adverse effects on psychiatry. So how does all of this influence affect psychiatry, and why should we be concerned about it? The alliance between psychiatry and the pharmaceutical industry has several important negative consequences. Firstly, it helps to reinforce a narrow biological conception of the nature of mental disorder. Secondly, it drives the expansion of this conception into more and more areas of everyday life. Thirdly, it is likely to play down the impact of the adverse side effects of psychiatric drugs. And now we're going to go to one here, the promotion of biological psychiatry, explanatory paradigms in psychiatry. Psychiatry is an institution, has long been obsessed with identifying biological causes of mental disorders and with the narrowing technical solutions that flow from such a paradigm. The pharmaceutical industry has helped to reinforce this approach by promoting promotion of drug treatments, funding biological research, and by promoting claims that psychiatric disorders are caused by simplistic biological notions, such chemical imbalances. Although the Food and Drug Administration in the U.S. prohibits such claims in advertisements that mention individual drugs, because they are not regarded as sufficiently established, they can be made in other promotional material. In 1995, the pharmaceutical industry provided funding for a campaign in the United States organized by the National Alliance for Research on Schizophrenia and Depression, entitled, quote, "Depression, a flaw in the chemistry, not character," end quote. This was an offshoot organization formed by the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, or the NAMI, and two other patient advocacy groups from the U.S., which also receive other financial support from the pharmaceutical industry. Advertisements in the national press and leaflets distributed as part of the campaign asserted that depression has been shown to be due to, quote, an insufficient level of neurotransmitter serotonin in the frontal lobes of the brain, end quote. The pharmaceutical industry has also taken up this theme with its own promotional material. Eli Lilly asserted that, quote, like arthritis or diabetes, depression is a physical illness, end quote. The hegemony of biological psychiatry that now exists stifles other approaches to understanding the complex behaviors that constitute psychiatric conditions. It elevates quantitative, positivist research methods, borrowed from the natural sciences. This approach depends on the notion that psychiatric conditions can be conceptualized as discrete entities occurring in individuals, which can be defined independently of their social context. Other physiological and sociological approaches that seek to understand the meaning of psychiatric disorders at both an individual and social level are relegated to the fringes of psychiatric academia. The biological I can't even say that word now. I'm just going to skip it. Has consequences at a social and political level too. By locating the problem as a disease within an individual brain, biological psychiatry diverts attention away from the social and political conditions that help to determine how psychiatric disorders occur and how they are identified and defined. And then we have psychiatry and coercion. What a title for a chapter. The alliance between psychiatry and the drug industry also helps to strengthen the more coercive aspects of psychiatry. The coercion is enshrined in much mental health legislation is justified on the basis that psychiatric conditions are discrete medical entities that respond to specific treatments. The planned extension of coercion into the community in the new mental health bill for England and Wales is based on the simplistic idea that if patients would only comply with their drug treatment, all would be well. However, it is acknowledged that a substantial proportion of patients with psychosis, for example, fail to even make an initial response to drugs, and many more relapse despite ongoing drug treatment. I've actually heard people saying that I can't take that. It makes me ill when I do. And they say, well, if you don't take it, we can't help you. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about there. That says 2003. And I just heard that from somebody the other day that's having that issue. Despite this reality, the dominance of drug treatment helps to create an impression of psychiatric conditions are easily treatable. This helps to justify coercion on medical grounds, thus avoiding the scrutiny that would be entailed in legislation that was more transparently concerned with social control. I have argued elsewhere that it is the medicalization of psychiatric legislation that has facilitated the expansion of coercion that is represented by the measure proposed in the new mental health bill. I guess that's Foucault described psychiatry as, quote, a moral tactic overlaid by the myths of positivism, end quote. The modern psychiatrist wields an, quote, authority he has borrowed from order, morality, and the family, end quote. Although from the 19th century onward, he no longer quite knew what was the nature of the power he had inherited. This is what makes the marketing of psychiatric drugs into a force for social control and conformity. Personal or social problems are defined as diseases, and the authority of psychiatry, backed by the financial muscle of drug companies, is used to enforce this view. In the process, we are encouraged to radically alter our view of ourselves and the world. We are encouraged to aspire to narrow norms of behavior and taught that anything else is not only undesirable, but unnatural or diseased. We are encouraged to think that change should be affected not by ourselves on our environment, but by technology on ourselves. That's beautiful. The effects on psychiatric practice. I might just leave that chapter right there and end this at 8 minutes. I think that's what I'm going to do. And then I'll come back and read the next. I'll do a part 4. That's freaking fabulous. 2003, that article came from. Have a good day.